Namaskar friends, this is NJ, your host on this channel. In this video, we are going to have our discussion on the concept of Ashtakvarga. So friends, I do not know whether you have heard this term or not, whether you make use of the Ashtakvarga table in any of the astrological softwares or reports which you must be having. So whether you are using Ashtakvarga concept or not, but trust me, when it comes down to doing an evaluation of the strength of the houses in your astrological chart, when it comes down to doing a very precise assessment of the transit results, this concept of Ashtakvarga can prove to be very helpful. So friends, just because as you know this thing that next month of April is going to witness lot many changes, like slow moving planets like Jupiter, Saturn, Rahu, Ketu, they all are going to be changing signs. So I have already uploaded a lot of videos like the transit results of Jupiter's movement, transit results of Rahu and Ketu's shift next month. But when it comes down to doing an assessment that how precisely it's going to be impacting you, this concept of Ashtakvarga needs to be studied at the same time. I'm not going to be taking a very descriptive route right now for explaining Ashtakvarga, because right now the objective is only to look at it pertaining to understanding the transit influence in our life. So okay friends, now just because in order to explain this concept I need to explain it via a chart as well, so I cannot find any other chart to work on that, so I'm just going to be explaining it on my own natal chart only, which I have already explained a lot many times. So I'm just first going to open up the Ascendant Chart as a reference example, and then afterwards I will shift this discussion to the Ashtakvarga, and then we will try to look at it that how helpful or informational this Ashtakvarga table can prove to be in our astrological analysis. So friends, as you can see that I have just opened up my Ascendant Chart. You must be seeing that my Ascendant is Aries rising, Ascendant Lord is sitting in the 8th house, Mars is very strong there, it is conjunct with Saturn as well. Both Mars and Saturn are sitting in the Anuradha Nakshatra, which is the nakshatra of planet Saturn, which is all about devotion, and Sun is sitting in the 10th house, which is the 5th house Lord as well. And I have kind of a Saraswati yoga which is taking place in the 11th house, where all the benefic planets like Moon, Jupiter, Mercury, Venus are placed in the 11th house in the Aquarius sign. So my 3 planets in the 11th house are in the Dhanishta Nakshatra, but my moon is in the Satbhisha Nakshatra, and all the planets are in the axis of Rahu and Ketu. So friends, now just by primarily looking at the Ascendant Chart, definitely on a very superficial way you can come to this conclusion that 11th house is definitely very strong, native is definitely going to be very friendly, very social, dreams and goals are going to be very high set, just because of too much stress going in the 8th house, that too in the Anuradha Nakshatra. Person is definitely going to be very devotional as well, very religious as well. Foreign lines might suit native more, and definitely artistic and creative pursuit or anything to do with spirituality might prove to be well suited for the native. So that is the kind of impression which you are getting from the Ascendant Chart. Now friends, when we come down to looking at the strength of the houses, so try to understand it in this way that Ashtakvarga or Sarvashtakvarga table is something where we take into consideration all the 7 planets and the ascendant. In this we do not include Rahu and Ketu. So now the thing is that the way planets impart or influences their result in each houses, we all know that certain planets like for example Jupiter, Saturn, Mars, they have got additional aspect as well, the way they influence the matters of the house. But when we talk about in totality in our Vedic astrology, you can also on a very subtle way you can look at it and you can understand that how all the planets are contributing and influencing the matters of that specific house. Now friends, that becomes very important, because many times the confusion which comes to people's mind is that people come to this conclusion that for example if in someone's chart the 5th house Lord is debilitated, but if you will look at the Ashtakvarga table, 5th house is getting lot many points, so you do not have to get confused over there. You can look at it in this way that definitely the Lord of the house or the leader of the house could be weak, but all other constituting members are resonating or harmoniously supporting towards the signification of that house. Now what I mean by that, very soon you will get to know. So now friends, what happen is that if you will make a sum total of all these Ashtakvarga points which planets contribute, that comes down to close to 337 or something number. Now what happen is that the ideally good number or the average number which is considered as in the Ashtakvarga table is that if house is getting near say about in between 25 to 28 points, so then we can say that that house has got strong strength, or you can say that house is has got the potential to manifest good results. If you will find the number Ashtakvarga table in any specific house, you will find the points to be, let's say for example, less than 21, then you will say that yes, the signification of this house could be little bit weak as well. Now it also comes down to in which dignity condition that house lord is placed. So for example, the house lord is debilitated or sitting in an enemy sign. Along with that, that house in the Ashtakvarga table is also getting less points. Then you can come to this conclusion that not only the house lord is weak, but along with that, other constituting members in the assembly are also not happy with the signification of that house. So you might have strong karma and strong lessons or remedies to do pertaining to that signification of the house. So now friends, coming back to this point which I was mentioning over here, that definitely anywhere between 25 to 28 is considered as the average points regarding the matters of that house. Anywhere if you will find, let's say about 28 Ashtakvarga points in the table for any specific house is considered as very good number. So you can say that the matters of that house can actually support you, help you, or you can prosper in the matters of that house. Now friends, I will just as a reference, because I am using my own chart, so I am going to open up the Ashtakvarga table. So if you will see over here that the few points before we will look into this, you have to take into consideration which many astrologers use as a thumb rule or as a principle while doing career analysis, while doing relationship analysis. So the basic fundamental way of looking at this Ashtak table is that, as you know, that when we talk about the 10th house, so 10th house represents your profession, your karma. 11th house represents the kind of gains you're gonna have, and 12th house represents the kind of losses you're going to have, the expenses you have to bear. So that's very simple. If in any chart you will find that compared to the Ashtakvarga points which you are going to see in the 10th house and comparing it with the 11th house, if you will find more points in the 11th house, that can be seen as a very good sign that no matter how much you are working hard, you might remain lucky in reaping up better or more results. Now let's say for example, if in the 10th house in the Ashtakvarga table you will find say about 30 points, and in the 11th house you will find 22 points or 25 points, then you can come to this conclusion that no matter how much this native is working hard, he is getting less results, or he might have to work harder compared to others in order to get the desired result, because the house of his actions has got like more points and the house of the result of the action has got less points. So that is one way of looking at it. And friends, you also have to look at the second house, because second house tells about your financial income, and you have to compare it with the 12th house, because 12th house tells about your expenses or your losses. So that's very simple. The best case or the win-win situation is that if you're gonna find more points in the second house compared to the 12th house, that is going to give us this idea, fair idea, that your income is definitely going to be higher than the kind of expenses or losses which is going to come your way. So that is, friends, one snapshot, one superficial way of looking at or assessing your Ashtakvarga table. Along with that, let's say for example, even if you have to do an assessment from the transit perspective, so if you have to calculate someone's Saturn's Sati, a time period which everyone is very scared of. So you know the whole concept of Sati is that the time when Saturn in the transit enters one sign before your moon sign, so 2.5 years, because Saturn stays in one sign for close to 2.5 years of time. So 2.5 a sign before your moon sign, 2.5 over your moon sign, and 2.5 years after your moon sign. So these are the 2.5, 2.5 and 2.5, 7.5 years of time period, which is considered as a time of test, trials and added responsibilities. So for example, if in your Ashtakvarga table, the house where your moon is placed, if that house has got more points compared to the house previous to it and the house after it, then definitely you can come to this conclusion that in native's chart, his Saturn Sadesati might not give this person as much as trouble as compared to any other person who might not have this kind of configuration in his Ashtakvarga table. So that is one more way of looking at it. Now friends, I'm gonna open my Sarvashtakvarga table and I'm going to explain it via showing you this table as well. So as you can see over here, just by prima facie looking at my Sarvashtakvarga table, you can see that the maximum points which I have got is in the 9th house. So 9th house, if you will see, you will find 38 points over there. So that in itself tells about my heightened interest in spirituality, in religious austerities, anything to do with devotion, with attainment of wisdom. And the second house which has got the second highest points in my Sarvashtakvarga table is the 4th house. So 4th house of about inner emotional peace, it's about the domestic life, and somehow both the 9th house and 4th house represents the parents as well. So somehow good blessings from my parents, from the past lifetimes, or some sort of karmic connection, spiritual connection. Or I could also say it in this way, that because of my birth, my parents' fortune might have also, like my stars have also supported, encouraged my parents as well. So there is a lot of way by which you can study this Sarvashtakvarga table, specifically the houses which are getting the maximum points. Now friends, like the way I was telling it to you, that you have to compare the 10th house and the 11th house as well. So if you will see in the 10th house, there are 26 points, but if you will open the 11th house, there are more points in the compared to the 10th house, which is a good sign. And in the 12th house, if you will compare the 12th house with the 2nd house, you can fairly see over there that 12th house has got less points compared to the 2nd house. So that is how friends, you can prima facie do the assessment of this chart, Ashtakvarga or Sarvashtakvarga table. So that was one way of giving you this idea that if your life hovers around one specific house, for example, you want to become a successful politician, so 7th house, 10th house becomes very important for you. You want to become an engineer, you want to become a musician, you want to become an artist. So whatsoever your aspirations are, there is a house which is connected to that aspiration of yours, and you have to just see the kind of points in the Ashtakvarga table that house is getting. So that is friends one way of explaining you the importance of the Ashtakvarga table. Now taking our discussion to the next section, where I'm gonna explain you the contribution of the transiting planets. So now friends, for this concept you have to come down to the Bhinnashtakvarga table. So now what this term means. So Bhinnashtakvarga table is, you are just looking at individually all the planets, that the kind of points they have provided to all the houses in your natal chart. But just because we looked at the Sarvashtakvarga table in totality, but now we have to look at it specifically from the transiting planets perspective. So just because I mentioned that Jupiter very soon is going to be transiting in the Pisces sign, so you have to see that in the Bhinnashtakvarga table of the planet Jupiter, basis your ascendant in whichsoever house Jupiter is going to be entering very soon on April 13th. So you have to see in the Bhinnashtakvarga table that how much points Jupiter is giving in that house. Is Jupiter very much favorable, harmonious? Jupiter likes the signification of that house, that it has provided it good points, and the moment it is going to enter over there, it is going to bring good results only. So that is one way via which you can do an assessment that specific to a transiting planet, its contribution, its liking towards the matters of that house in your ascendant chart. So for example friends, if you will look at my chart, so as I have already explained that my ascendant is Aries, so Jupiter is going to be entering my 12th house on April 13th. So if you will see the Ashtakvarga table of the planet Jupiter, you will see over here that Jupiter is providing 6 points to the 12th house. So while looking at this, you can say this thing with confidence that compared to Jupiter's transit in the 11th house, the moment it is going to enter my 12th house, because it is giving stronger points in the 12th house compared to all other houses, you can say this thing with confidence that its transit is definitely going to open up the doors of opportunities. And moreover, 12th house has more to do with the spiritual prospect. So regarding the spiritual pursuit, regarding the attainment of knowledge, or the transit of Jupiter next month in my 12th house can prove to be very favorable in my personal life. So now friends, you can look at it from any other planetary perspective as well. Like let's say for example, if you have to look at it from Saturn's perspective, so Saturn, which is currently transiting in the Capricorn sign, so all what you have to do is that you have to open up the Ashtakvarga table of specific to the planet Saturn. So the moment you are going to look at it, you have to see the condition of my 10th house. For example, we are taking my chart as an example, as a reference. So you will see over here that Saturn is providing 7 points in the 10th house. So that in itself tells about that yes, definitely during this whole year, ever since Saturn has entered my 10th house in the Capricorn sign, it has actually paved foundation to something concrete regarding my professional growth and professional endeavors. And specifically friends, if you will look at, for example, in the same Saturn's Ashtakvarga table only in the 2nd house, so Saturn is giving 0 points over there. So that means that once and when Saturn is going to enter the Taurus sign, basis my ascendant in my 2nd house, my financial gains are definitely going to get completely dried up, or financially it might not prove to be very promising time for me when Saturn is going to be transiting my 2nd house from my ascendant. So that is one way friends, one approach of doing the assessment of your houses in your astrological chart. And specifically from the transit perspective, you can get to know that in totality the strength of the house where a planet is going to be entering in, and moreover just by looking up at the specific Ashtakvarga table of that particular planet, you can get to know, you can come to this conclusion that that planet is in a state, in this dignity to give you good results, or you might have to struggle, you might have to do remedies in order to derive the best results out of that matters of the house where that specific planet is going to be transiting in. So friends, you do not have to worry about these charts, because the chart which I have just used in order to show you as a reference example, it is from the Jagannath Hora software. So softwares like AstroSage, there are like so many free to access softwares through which you can get this access to the Ashtakvarga table. I tried looking at the Cosmic Insight app as well, but I guess it's it's a paid feature over there. But there are so many other apps where you can have access to the Ashtakvarga table, and trust me, if you will make use of that for assessment of the transit or looking at the dignity of the strength of your houses, you are definitely going to get very wonderful results. So friends, whatsoever your suggestions are, do write it in the comment section. I did not go much in the detail because the whole objective right now was just to give you this insight that next month we are gonna witness many changes. So how can you do a accurate assessment in finding out whether that transit is going to be beneficial for you, or you have to do the remedies. So this is something friends which I wanted to say as a part of my inputs for this concept of Ashtakvarga table. For further more updates and notifications on the divine science of Vedic astrology, please subscribe to my YouTube channel and like my Facebook page. धन्यवाद.